So let's revisit forms and have a look at a second way of passing information through between pages. Now there are two ways. We've looked at the first way, which was using get. So as a reminder, here's a form. Here's a form, and there's no HTML in this page. And if we have a look at the code, you can see, if we look at the form, which is tucked away in the middle of the code, you can see we've got form name equals soap form. So we have a name attribute, we have an action, and the action attribute is going to be the name of the page, the PHP page, which will be dealing with our response when people enter information into this form. And then we have this third attribute, method equals get, and that indicates the way that information will travel from the form to the subsequent page. Now with get, the way that we saw that this was being done is by values being passed through the URL in name equal value pairs. And if you look in here, you can see we have times a week equals 4. That corresponds to the text entry field, which was named by us in the form times a week. And obviously the value was 4, and then the button was clicked. And that value carries forward into the next page. And what's nice about PHP is that it has this special variable called _get. And we have to do it in capital letters because it's a built-in variable. And what it enables us to do is it enables us to grab that value from that past URL. So the way I like to do this is right at the top of the code, we just have something that says something like this. We go $, times a week equals $_get times a week. So we're grabbing that value from that special variable that's created automatically by PHP, and we save it in our own variable called times a week. And I like to use consistent names here. I think it will certainly help to prevent mistakes. So the value is called times a week in the form. The value that's passed through to our response page is times a week, and our variable is called times a week. And you can see that in its use here. So right at the top of the page, I've got that little bit of code that grabs that value, and then down the bottom, in this example, which is nice and simple, all we're going to do is we're just going to print it out. And so if you look in the PHP block, you can see we've got print. So we're going to print out a series of characters, and we're using string concatenation, that notion that you can combine strings together, that's the dot, to actually create a paragraph. So we've got opening paragraph tag, the amount watched was, then in that spot will be inserted the value for times a week, and then we have a closing paragraph, and that's what's sent to the browser window. Now the second way of passing information between the pages is to use post. And the way that we do this in the form is to simply make a small change, and you can see it there. If you look in the form, you can see that we've got name equals soap form, action equals response to.php. But then look at the bit in red where it says method equals post. So we've changed that. Before it said method equals get, this time it says method equals post. And what we're doing is we're sending a signal to the browser and the server that we're going to be transmitting information around using this different mechanism. Now, to all intents and purposes, this looks exactly the same in the web browser. So if you look at the form, you'll see it looks the same. But what's actually happening here is that information is passed between the pages in a different way. Now with get, we know that the information is passed through the URL, but with post, the information is passed through the HTTP stream. So when the user clicks on the form, what happens is the actual bits of data are actually embedded inside the HTTP stream, actually in that hidden HTTP protocol language. Now we need to make a minor change to our response page, and once again PHP does all the work for us. There is a variable called post, and what that will do is that will grab those values that have been passed through from the form to the response page. And similarly, we're just going to create a variable at the top of the code that basically goes $_post and then the name of the form element that we want to grab the value from. So at the top here, I've got times a week equals $_post times a week. So that's going to grab that value and it's going to put in a variable that we can then print out. So the switch from get to post is quite straightforward. I make a minor change in the form and then I have to, at the top of our code here, I have to put underscore post, capital letters, remember, to get the value out. So what are the actual differences here? Well, get, we know that the values are visible on screen. And what that actually means is that we can see the values that are being passed through the URL. Now the side effect of that is that it means that those values are bookmarkable. So we could actually, for example, do a search on Google and we could bookmark that search. With post, the values are not passed visibly through the URL, they're passed through the HTTP protocol. So it's not bookmarkable. Now, there's an obvious consequence of that, for example, and I hope that you can see straight away, you wouldn't want to be passing usernames and passwords using get, because anybody walking past the machine would see the username and the password in the URL. So there's this notion that you've got choices. Do you care? Is it private information? Is it public information? Do you want it to be bookmarkable? And those are the kind of things that will drive your decision about whether you want to choose between get and post. And the final thing that I would say, which is in this screenshot here, the suggestion and the guide is that really, if we're going to make changes from the result of actually using a form, say for example we're going to update a database, really you should use post. Post is the method we use if things are not going to change. Now up here in the second paragraph you can see this phrase that's often used, which is it's free from side effects, it's safe. So in other words, get, we're just retrieving information, we're not really changing anything and it's going to be public information. Post, you'll see that often we use post particularly when we're doing things with databases where we're updating databases and things like that.